Thanks, everyone. Australia doesn't have a gas supply shortage. We have a gas export problem. And I'm standing here today calling on the government to ensure that uncontracted gas is offered to Australian businesses, households first. We have to ensure that Australian gas is actually benefiting Australians before we export it. We have 10 times the amount of gas that is uncontracted as what is projected as the shortfall. This is a problem that can be solved. What we haven't seen is the political will from the major parties to actually say Australians should benefit from Australian gas first before we export it.
Just to back up what Senator Pocock said, here's a diagram that shows the total amount of gas that's produced in Australia, and you can see the red portion is actually what gas is being exported. You can see from 2013 to 2015 a massive increase in the amount of gas that was produced but all exported, and the real problem is that we basically export most of our gas and don't leave enough here in Australia. The gas cartel often tell us that there's a shortage of gas in Australia. That is simply a lie, and it's the basis that they use to make profit. In terms of what I wanted to talk to you today about, this is a document. It's a public policy, or it's a policy paper on gas reservation in Australia. This is a document that I had to fight for several years. The government spent more than $100,000 trying to stop me getting access to this. This is a document on a reservation policy here in Australia. It ultimately finds against a reservation policy, ignoring the success of the Western Australian gas reservation policy. Much of this document has been finally redacted because the government argued in the Administrative Review Tribunal that the release of this document, a domestic policy paper, the release of this paper would cause issues for Japan, Singapore and South Korea. So let me make that very clear. The Australian government argued that releasing this policy document that explores a gas reservation policy in Australia would harm our international gas recipients, and therefore Australians are not allowed to see what's written underneath the redactions. So I just want to make that very, very clear. We can't have a debate in this country about domestic gas reservation as a policy because the Australian government says it will upset Japan, South Korea and Singapore, and that's a disgraceful situation. We need to have informed and rigorous debate in this country, and the government is engaging in censorship.
So just so we're quite clear here, this is not about digging up more gas. This is not about drill, baby, drill. This is about prioritising where our gas goes. This is about putting Australia first. How about that? Australia first. This is why we want a gas reserve policy. You want to sit up here and lecture us about manufacturing for the future of this country, and in the same breath, you could be putting in a gas reserve policy to lower our energy prices right across the country, and you're not doing that. What a laughing stock you are as a major party. Now, I don't understand why the Liberals won't break ranks on this and say exactly what was said 5 years ago, that this country should have a gas reserve policy of 15%. And that's what we want to see here today. Stop this rubbish. Stop this rubbish of not doing means testing and giving people like me $150 off my electricity bill and the next one after that. Right, enough of the rubbish. How about you start taking action? And the first thing you could be doing today, what you could be doing this week is putting through a gas reserve policy for this country to make energy prices reduced. We could do that today. But no, this goddamn government, instead of doing that tomorrow, is more worried about exempting salmon farming from the EPA. All right, because I can guarantee the mining companies would never get out of it, would never get away with an exemption of what salmon's asking for tomorrow. Because apparently that is what your government is prioritising tomorrow. Talking about salmon instead of talking about reducing our energy bills in this country. That's what we're talking about, a stinky little fish tomorrow. So get your priorities right when it comes to this nation. We've had enough.
Steve Murphy, I'm the National Secretary of the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union. Gas is a finite and precious resource and it should be used in the national interest. We know that it powers our homes, it also powers our electricity grid, but it's relied on also for our manufacturing industry. We know that gas is driving up the price of energy in our homes, but what we also know is gas has three uses across our industry. There is low heat industries such as food manufacturing that we use to boil food. That can shift pretty quickly away from gas with the right government support. There's the hard to abate industries such as steel and aluminium that rely on gas for their future, but there's technology that is available right now to be able to move those industries and secure their future. But the biggest gas user in Australia is our gas industry itself. More than 30% of our domestic gas is used up by the gas industry. If they were able to move from gas to renewable energy to power their plants, we would have ample supply and a reasonable domestic price for gas in the country. What we need the government to do is two things, is to have support for manufacturing to shift, but also to force the gas companies to get off gas so that we can secure our domestic supply and make sure that we bring prices down, not just for our industry and for our homes, but for our electricity as well. So we're urging the federal government right now. We've stood up to the gas industry before. Well, now we've got to show a little bit more courage to make sure that we impact the cost of living to go down for workers, for the manufacturing industry to secure our future.
Thanks. My name is Cassandra Goldie and I'm Chief Executive Officer with the Australian Council of Social Service. And today I'm standing here to say to the federal government and to all politicians, we have to pull every lever we can in order to both bring down energy prices and transition to a clean economy. The reality is for low-income people, many of them do not yet have a choice. Many people are reliant on gas. We have not got the home energy upgrades that we need in order to support low-income households to transition to electrification and to dramatically reduce their energy use by having really decent minimum standards of energy performance. Every lever is needed here, including bringing down the price of gas. We have to move away from these one-off energy rebates. We've spent over $7 billion now in providing money to people, many of whom don't need it, instead of properly doing the targeted work to help people on the very lowest incomes, fixing the adequacy of social security, spending the investment that we need to support low-income people to transition to good quality housing and bringing down the wholesale price of energy, transitioning to a clean economy. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Mark Ogge, Principal Advisor at the Australia Institute. Our governments are letting a handful of giant multinational oil and gas companies drain Australia of gas. These companies export 80% of Australia's gas. They use more gas running their export terminals than Australians use to produce electricity and manufacturing. And then they tell us there's a gas shortage. Our governments give them more than half the gas they export for free by not charging them royalties and let them price gouge us for our own gas. These companies are then using the gas shortages that they are creating to push our governments into approving massive new gas export projects so they can export more gas. It's amazing our governments fall for it. There's only one way to keep Australian gas for Australians, and that is to cut gas exports. Big gas are taking the piss, our governments are letting them, and ordinary Australians are paying the price.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our latest research and work, sign up to our newsletter. Delivered every fortnight, it includes behind-the-scenes updates from Richard Dennis, an exclusive cartoon from Judy Horacek, details for our upcoming events and webinars, as well as explainers, graphs, and not to mention the latest cutting-edge research and analysis from the team here on the key issues that are facing Australia. Click the button on your screen to check it out.